Morning, Angie.
Good morning. How are you, sir?
Is that, I don't know who a sir is, I'm retired, but is that a CrossFit picture you put up?
CrossFit picture?
I thought it
Probably.
had somebody lifting weights. My daughter's is a CrossFit cultist. She loves it.
Yeah, I'm obsessed, I admit.
It works.
Yeah, it does. It does a lot for my mental stability also.
I was a gym rat for way too many years.
Okay, so you know.
I know what gym rats are.
Yes, I'm one of them. It is 2:00 now in Florida. We're 5 hours ahead of you guys now.
Her CrossFit one was 808, her box.
Oh, okay.
It's a good crew.
Yeah, I'm in 850.
How we doing, Mark?
I'm trying to get a hold of Ron. Are you on, Ronald?
Martha's here. Mike's here. You're here. We got a quorum, barely.
Yeah, I'm just making a call and I'll be right back. Ted won't be able to make it today.
Yep. And he told us he's good about that.
Yeah.
Does anyone know how Kat is feeling?
No,
I know she was sick a few days ago.
I'm sorry.
Got some technical difficulties.
I know Bob Merce wanted to sign in. I don't know if he has yet.
I'm here, Mike.
Are you there?
I'm here.
You know what Vince Lombardi said? On time is 15 minutes early and you don't let your helmet touch the ground. The famous Green Bay coach.
He said, winning's not the, what was this thing you said about winning?
I can't, yeah, I remember that some little
Something.
pithy thing.
Yeah, he's a very quotable guy. I think, Mike, I think it was winning's not the most important thing, it's the only thing.
Oh, that's right. Well, that's not true. It is to a guy like him.
Just one more minute, everyone.
Thank you. Bob, did you get my Irish quote, Erin go bra, for St. Patty's
I
Day?
did, Mike, thank you.
Nick, peace in Ireland. There's never been peace in Ireland. There never will be.
Yeah. Well, this morning for St. Patrick's Day, I made some Irish soda bread already. And my wife hated it.
It's not, yeah, it's a cultural thing, not a culinary thing.
Yeah, definitely.
Is that you, Ron?
Irish soda bread is very good.
Oh, my wife, I thought it was fine, but my wife, she couldn't handle it.
Yeah,
Hey,
but it's
sorry, I
very
tried to
good.
get in, guys. Sorry.
I liked it.
Thank you, Ron.
Welcome, Ron.
Hey,
Okay,
Ron.
finally.
Okay, so Martha, Mike, myself, and Ronald are now present. Good morning. Happy St. Patrick's Day. I see, is that green, Martha? I got a little bit of my green on.
Hey, when you got the map of Ireland on your face, you don't need to wear green.
Okay. All right. We live in a green state. How's that? Okay.
Yes.
Before we begin, I want to move to want to make a motion to amend the agenda. To add a discussion on the request that was sent to me by PBS Hawaii to appear
Participate
on,
in the panel. Yeah.
yes, okay.
Yep.
So can I get a second on the motion to amend?
I second it.
It's been moved and seconded by Martha to amend the agenda today to amend the agenda.
Mark, can I just clarify with Lisa, are we allowed to do this under the new rules?
Yes, we are. I did discuss this with others. Minor items can be amended or added to the agenda.
Thank you.
And I reminded you, I once
So-
asked you, several meetings ago, I asked you to appear at a neighborhood board. And we amended the agenda for that ask.
But the rules have changed since then.
Yeah,
That's why I
right.
was asking whether it was still in effect. Okay, thank you.
And
There
I
just needs to
agree,
be a vote.
Yes.
and I agree, it is not a substantive change.
I do too.
So I'm gonna take that everybody's in agreement to the amendment.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So with that being added, we'll discuss that after the testimonies on the agenda items. So at this time, I can call on, raise your hand, your digital hand or your regular hand for those who are here that want to testify on the agenda as written, can do so at this time. Go ahead, Bob.
Thank you, Mark and members of the commission. I just wanted to mention that late yesterday afternoon, actually, I learned of a bill that some people, I guess, have been following, but I was not. And when I read it, I was really shocked. It's House Bill 1459, And it is an incredibly regressive bill that would, it would impose on judges, take discretion away from issuing restitution, and would require all judges throughout the state under all circumstances to impose mandatory restitution on juvenile offenders and or their family. So I don't know if the bill, there was a hearing on it yesterday, whether it got out of judiciary, I don't know. But if somebody knows, then what I'm saying is irrelevant if it's dead. But if it isn't dead, it's a bill that should be.
And that's specifically designed, the way you just said that, that's specifically designed for family court?
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyone who's adjudicated in family court where there's a loss of damage or damage to property, they would have to impose restitution.
They're having a hearing this morning in the judiciary.
Oh, that's right. It's this morning.
Okay,
But
thank you, Bob.
Okay.
Anything else?
No.
I'm looking around the room. Carrie Ann, did you have something you wanted to say?
Sure. Good morning, Chair Patterson, member of the commission. Just to follow up on some legislative updates, today there is a hearing on a number of reentry bills. There were a slew of reentry bills yesterday, most of which passed out of committee. But for today, there is the bill 2344 House Bill for probation reform. Also 2309, which is the appropriation for nonprofit organization to provide diversion, rehabilitation, and reentry services. There's also the hearing today at 1 p.m., all the same hearing, relating to civil IDs. The way that the bill is currently worded, that it would essentially water down the Department of Public Safety's responsibility to issue the civil IDs. So that's scheduled for today. I think the other big thing that you're likely well aware of is that last week during the House Finance Committee, there was a decision made by Chair Luke and the Finance Committee to withhold the $15 million that is being requested by the Department of Safety for OCCC planning and moving forward. In a subsequent article by Kevin Dayton in the Civil Beat, there was additional information that Chair Luke mentioned that she would like the state to advance bail reform prior to pursuing the jail as currently designed. And subsequently, Vice Chair Yamashita also mentioned that there's some issue with sewer capacity at the selected site, but there wasn't further details about that. That was last week, Thursday. And I believe that the budget may have been voted on yesterday. This week, House budget, it will cross over to WAM, and then the Senate will have an opportunity to weigh in. So that's it in terms of our update on the legislative front. Oh, and HB 1567 bail reform has not been scheduled for a hearing yet past the crossover. I suspect it will, but it hasn't been scheduled as of today.
Carrie Ann, what was that last bill you mentioned?
I'm sorry. HB 1567,
Okay.
which is the criminal pretrial reform bill.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else have any comments on our agenda before I move forward? Okay,
Good morning,
Susan.
this is Angie McFarland. I have a quick comment on the COVID. My son is out of Waiava. When he was transferred, he had to go into quarantine, clearly, at Laumaka, and he was in quarantine for 15 days, even after being swabbed. Now, they're sitting there at work furlough, and nobody is going to work because they're worried about people going out and bringing COVID back in. So I see on the agenda that the restrictions are being lifted. So I'm wondering if anyone knows how that affects the work furlough people that are sitting there waiting to go to work.
Thank you. Angie, those are some questions we may ask today
Yeah,
ourselves.
we can
Thank
pose
you.
that to the department for her.
Mark, could I add one thing?
Go ahead, Bob.
I think it's House Bill 2015 has not been set for hearing in the Senate. And this is the bill that would create a Ho'olauliki Institute for Restoration and Healing within the University of Hawaii. So anybody who's interested, I would urge them to contact the chairs of the judiciary. I can't remember which three committees it got referred to: judiciary, I think maybe I don't know, judiciary and WHAM and one other. But it's a great bill, and I've written to the three chairs, Donna Mercado Kim, Carl Rhodes, and I forget the third. But anyway, it's 2015. It's a really good bill, and it needs. We hope it passes this session. Thank you, Mark.
Yeah. Higher education, Donna Kim.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, we'll talk about that today too.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for those testimonies. I want to begin, commissioners. I've been receiving several emails from a Joy Chong Stannard, producer director for Insights on PBS Hawaii. So they're asking for a panel to appear. And I don't think they have any commitments yet. The email I'm reading to you is basically they had asked Kat Brady to appear, Max Otani, and Representative Mark Nakashima. And so this is for a, what do you call that? This is for a panel that would appear on PBS on Thursday evening, April 7th, 2022. Any comments on this?
I think you'll be able to ably represent us. I'm not worried about it, Mark. You don't know what the questions are going to be, so how do we give you any more direction?
I didn't want to answer the email till I talked to you folks first, and then, you know, as they get closer to the date, I'll know who's actually going to be there or whatnot. But at least I can give them an answer. Yeah. Mike, you have any concern?
No, I think our record's pretty clear. We want restorative, transformative justice, and we've got Act 179 to guide us.
Ronald?
Oh, I agree. You can, I think you will be able to represent the commission well.
Okay, that just stressed me out, Ronald. That's a lot of pressure. Okay, I just wanted to get your permission before I engage in conversation on what that is going to entail and everything. And let's see if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, then we'll just continue the conversation with Ms. Stannard with PBS. So thank you very much for that support. As we move on to the next item, again, I've had conversation with Lisa. We still await any kind of confirmation from the executive branch in terms of the hiring of our executive director. Yeah, no
I
further
think
things
it's
to
a dead
report.
issue. I can't imagine that people we interviewed are still waiting around for a response from the state of Hawaii.
I'm kind of stuck in what the next steps would be, possibly can do. Would you suggest that I write a letter and ask that for a meeting?
First, write a letter to the governor, ask for the status.
Okay. From us rather than from Lisa, yeah?
Yeah, oh yeah, definitely from us.
You could indicate on the letter if he has any questions or wants any more information. We'd be happy, the commission is happy to help in any way.
Okay. Mike and Ron, you guys good with that?
Yes,
Okay,
Yeah,
let's get something out today. You know, it's kind of an exciting but scary feeling as we begin to slowly get back to normal with everything that we're hearing in the news about certain restrictions being ending for us. Good morning, Max. Are you there? In regards to COVID?
He was signed in earlier.
I'm here.
Okay. Hi, Max. Good morning. Can you give us, your update on the COVID, how you folks are faring, and items 3 and 4 can actually merge into each other, but we'd like to hear what's the status. Thank you. We've been getting regularly updates, and I know your website is pretty constant reporting the COVID-19 situation in the facilities. Can you update us today, please?
First of all, we're updating our website daily, but we're no longer putting out daily press releases.
Okay.
Unless there's something significant. The COVID status numbers right now, as far as active inmates, we have 1 active inmate at HCCC. As far as staff, we have 1 active staff out of Kulani. Vaccinations are going as scheduled. I don't have point in time, and I do not have Arizona numbers at this time. But as far as boosters, we've administered 1,146 boosters as of yesterday. Want me to go into item 4?
Well, before you go into that, have you heard of any restrictions on staff in regards to those that are not vaccinated being allowed back in without testing?
It's my understanding when the proclamation is lifted on the 26th at midnight that there's no requirement for vaccinations or testing at any state office.
Okay.
or agency.
Thank you, Max.
We will continue to mask because CDC recommendations recommend that correctional facilities continue to mask. So we have just sent consultation letters to the unions to advise them that of our decision and ask for their input and feedback.
How's our entry procedure still going to remain the same?
If anybody can walk in, I'm pretty sure we're going to maintain the thermometer, which I think is, it's in our pandemic plan, so we're going to continue that. Research is also evolving right now about temperature screening. This virus is evolving and practices are evolving. We're no longer going to be for vaccination status and test results.
Okay. Any questions, commissioners, for Max on item number 3?
I have, Mark.
Go ahead, Ron.
Okay, Max, for the Arizona stats, are they responding to your request? When was the last time you received stats from Arizona?
I reported out the stats. Judge, I'm sorry. This is all on me. I got the stats yesterday from our staff here, and I neglected to track down stats from. But I'll get stats at the next meeting for you folks.
Okay, but they have been responding to your request.
Very responsive. It's just.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, Max, we can go into number 4. I guess with that date you gave, would that affect our furloughs and our work furlough programs?
Yes, we're looking for the Monday after that to initiate work furlough and visits. Before I get into that, Mark, but I thank you for the letter that you sent me regarding the opening of furlough. I just wanted to go over some of the things that the recommendations or things that you asked for us to consider. So if that's okay.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so bullet 1, you said, for example, reduced capacity for Lomaka was specified. we have been doing that. So the recommendation from the commission was 48. I believe the census there today. We've been trying to stage people at furlough as best as we can using social distancing. Institute daily testing of inmates. The problem with testing and vaccination, the third bullet, is that we cannot mandate that at this point. It's all voluntary. Use of Waiawa and Kulani for more intensive preparation. We do recognize that Kulani and Waiawa bed space has been utilized. However, the problem was the infection rate at Halava, which is the feeder facility for those two minimum security facilities. With the number at 0 now at Halava, the furlough, the transfer process will take place. Invest in technology for furlough prep and furlough monitoring. We have been putting people out on electronic monitoring for furloughs, for extended furloughs. As far as technology, we're investing a lot of money in technologies to assist inmates to have video visits, as well as we're trying to establish video booths within the housing units itself so that we can conduct visits. The problem is that we have access to video court hearings, but the video equipment is centralized in a certain part of the facility. So when we have infections going on and different housing units are locked down, we're unable to get the inmate to the video equipment. So presently, we're working on video booths with video equipment for housing units at CCC and HCCC. The last is expand the use of private community located programs, and Fernhurst was identified. Currently, we have 9 female offenders at Fernhurst on extended. So we are taking advantage of that. We'd just like to see that even if they're on extended furlough to a place such as Fernhurst, if one of the inmates do test positive, and our past practice has been to bring them all back to the facility because we needed to provide them health care.
What was that last part, Mark? Max, I didn't quite understand that. If one person tests positive at Fernhurst, you bring all the women back to the facility?
The last time that we had a positive at Fernhurst, we brought all 8 or 9 females back because they're in close settings. They're living all on the same floor. All of our inmates are living on the same floor, and then the parolees live on the floor above them. So, because we're required to quarantine them, and the one that was positive had to isolate. We had to bring all of them back to the facility.
So my question is, it wasn't possible to do the quarantine at Fernhurst?
That was recommended by our healthcare staff at DOH at that time.
That was early in the pandemic, right?
That was about 3 to 4 months ago.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's not that early into it.
Delta, during the Delta breakout.
Can I also ask,
Again, things are changing, so practices will change also.
can I also ask, what does our contract allow? What's the maximum people that can be at Fernhurst?
I don't know what the maximum amount. I'm sorry, Martha, I can get that for you at the next meeting.
Okay.
Okay. I want to know how well the program's being used. I have one other question. You said that you are using electronic monitoring for extended furlough. Could you tell me how many inmates statewide currently participate in extended furlough? And if possible, can you break that down by jurisdiction? Kauai, Maui, Big Island versus Oahu. Max, you don't have to wait for the next meeting. You can send an email to respond to these questions.
As far as opening up furlough, the date has been set April 28th, which is Monday after the restrictions are lifted. Oh, March 28th. Visits and furloughs will resume on a limited basis. Visits especially because we would still need to adhere to some of the protocols. Visitors would have to be masked. Ideally, we would like to do non-contact visits as possible if we can't do it in open air. And there's going to be a limited amount of visitors that we come.
I do have one other question, Max, and this is just a logistic question because I know it's going to be difficult to get the furlough program up and running again at its full capacity so that everyone has jobs and stuff. So how are you preparing for having a lot of people there, but having to get them to their job interviews and prepare them to go into the community? It's going to be a big job.
They're not at full capacity now, Martha, as far as the number of people staging at furlough. And staff has been working with them, trying to prepare them to get out. So
yeah. So if the inmate sets up an interview, they're going to be allowed to go out for a job interview and do that?
yeah, they will be.
Yeah, okay. And I'm sorry, my computer glitched just when you said what this current census is at Lamaca. Could you repeat that number?
51.
51, okay. Thank you.
Max, is the bridge program at WCCC up and running?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. So in addition to bridge and you talked about
Again, it's up and running, but I don't think we're releasing people out into the community yet, which will begin
after the 27th. Okay.
restrictions are lifted.
Is there a similar program? You have bridge at WCCC. We have the Lamaca and its bridge program at OCCC. Is there an equivalent to a Fernhurst for the men? Our size?
No.
We don't have a contracted facility. We do have a contract with a clean and sober home, which could be utilized also. Mainly, parole has been taking advantage of that contract.
So when you talked about Fernhurst and you talked about parole floor and a furlough floor, the furlough beds are your responsibility and the parole beds, there's paroles?
Yes, the parole bids are basically paid for by the parolees themselves.
Okay. Oh, that's interesting to know. Okay. Any more questions for Max at this time?
Hey, Max, Mike here.
Yes.
To me, constitutionally, and I think in terms of social work, the least drastic restriction should apply. And we shouldn't automatically put people back into custody for a variety of what I'd call technical or medical reasons. So it troubles me at least, and I think some of the commissioners, that the women would go back to the women's prison when they don't have to. And I'm just saying that it's called the least drastic means test. It's embraced by the judges nationally, locally. And I think it's part of Act 179. So that's just my input, Max. Is there any way that you don't automatically put them back in if somebody tests positive or there's some problem?
I guess it's our need to monitor their medical status, because many of them, they cannot qualify for medical on the outside. So we are still responsible for their health care as parolees, still inmates under our. But the parolees that live on the floor above them, it's not a problem because they work, they have their own health care insurance, and they can see their own doctors. But the furloughs, our doctors are still responsible for them.
Again,
Okay.
what Mike is emphasizing is that was a very extreme step to take. And in corrections, Mike, we have the same thing, corrections, called least restrictive environment. And to have moved everyone back when they have single rooms, they could have stayed in their rooms.
Martha, again, and not to cut you off, but things have changed. So now, even in close contact, if you're vaccinated, the rooms, if we do have another infection at our extended furlough site, we would have to take a look at the need to bring everybody back.
I have one last question, Max, and that's any of the other commissioners have anything else for Max? I'm trying to frame it correctly. Has that Judge Mike, was it a task force that the federal government set up to look at the conditions in the facility?
You're asking me?
Yes, has that been resolved, Max?
It's the agreement monitoring panel.
Yes.
They're concluding. Well, we're supposed to be receiving the final report. Well, the final report should be submitted from the panel to Attorney General and the defense attorneys of plaintiffs. And if everything goes well, which we anticipate, then it should conclude at the end of this month.
Okay, and then it becomes public information, probably, yeah?
Yeah, I believe once everything is settled, then.
Okay, thank you.
Mark, if I may, I think there's an article in today's Civil Beat discussing some attorney's fees for Eric Sykes' crew. Judge Otaki allowed it because there was, I don't know, she had some fancy word, intentional benign neglect or something. She put more than 2 or 3 adjectives together there, but whatever it wasn't a happy face on it. So I think I commend that for us to read.
Intentional versus benign, that kind of contradict each other. It's either intentional neglect or benign neglect.
Mark, I'm not sure if this is the right time, but I would like to pose a question to the commission.
That'll be fine, Max.
Okay, there's Senate Bill 3295, which establishes a commission for female inmates. I've read your testimony, and it basically says that you would work, cooperatively with them. But I'm still uncertain, if because this bill has gained traction and is moving along. But if this bill does pass, the duties is similar to what you folks are doing. So does that mean you folks will be only overseeing male inmates?
I believe our mandate, we can't change our mandate. So it's really going to be interesting to see. Martha, you want to make a comment?
Well, I agree with Max that in 3295, it duplicates some of the things that we're responsible for. But as Max also stated, it has a lot of traction. We got to know the people who are behind this. And so our best position is to state, Max, that we will work cooperatively with them, because I think there's a good chance it's going to pass.
Yeah.
We're probably going to have to go in and ask for amendments, because if you read the bill correctly, it appropriates funds to us for the commission. And
Okay.
It's similar to you folks here, where it would be a conflict of interest if we.
Well, can you say that again? It's going to appropriate funds to public safety?
Yeah, it's an appropriation to public safety to assist, the funding and staffing of the facility. Similar to what the AG is providing for you folks now.
Yes.
And we're going to consult with the Attorney General's office, but I feel like it's a conflict of interest.
The commission is going to be with the judiciary, but you're going to have the funding?
No.
There's two bills regarding commissions. One commission is to set up like a task force,
Yes.
Yeah,
identifies the players. The other is almost identical to your job. Only thing, it focuses on female.
yeah.
And that commission is attached to public safety for administrative purposes. And that's why the appropriation is to public safety. And
Yeah.
that's the conflict that may arise.
Mark, do you see there is a comment from Carrie Ann that she's requesting that she provide an update to us on Senate Bill 3139 and HB 2171?
Yeah, I just may want to make sure.
I could use a briefing.
No, I understand, but I wanted, if this is not, I wanted to see if we answered Max's question. One of the things that we said in some of the hearings, Max, is that, we did give a testimony about having no staff, yeah,
Mhm.
and we're gonna, the implication is you're making all these commissions and you're not providing them with staff. What's the sense of making the commissions? But we did say we were gonna support the commission should it become full-fledged, but where's the will in the staff is what's really the thing. They haven't done it for us. Is that they're gonna do it for the new commission?
No, the legislature did do it for us.
Yeah.
I want you to remember, we were funded. It is the executive branch that is not expending the money that was funded. So we can't fault the legislature. They did fund us.
So the commission's position is basically if it passes, you will work with them.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Max. Carrie Ann, go ahead.
Okay, thank you again. So on these two bills, I want to bring to your attention, it's those two numbers there, HB 2171 and SB 3139. It's titled Relating to Public Safety. And this is the two bills that would establish a Department of Law Enforcement and Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation into two separate agencies. Embedded deep within the bill, it's very lengthy. There's some provisions relating to reporting of deaths in custody. And I just sort of caught this the other day. And so maybe it is a good opportunity for the commission to discuss it and potentially ask Director Otani for clarification. So the bill originally, as it was drafted, the interpretation of the OIP, Office of Information Practices, was such that there was some sort of discrepancy between the language embedded in the bill that would require the Department of Public Safety to disclose the name of individuals if they die in custody. And similarly, they would also be required to provide the name of any correctional employees if they die in custody. So the OIP, Cheryl Kakazu Park, opined in a written testimony that there was a discrepancy in the bill that it would be mandatory and not discretionary. But I think there was another provision that said that there was a conflict in another statute that it would be discretionary. And so she advised and said, if the intention is for the Department of Public Safety to have discretion and not be mandated, that they change the language in the bill. And then the subsequent drafts were changed. And so my understanding of the bills now is that it would not require the Department of Public Safety to release the names of people if they die in custody. So if this is something of interest and concern to the commission, you may want to take a look at those bills. The ACLU did submit comments the other day in opposition to that provision in particular. We are very concerned that we should be promoting more transparency and accountability. And with the record number of deaths of people who died last year in custody, and COVID is not, we haven't seen the end of it. It's very concerning for us that this would be changed intentionally to be discretionary rather than mandatory, which is the case of other jurisdictions, other states, where it is publicly disclosed so that the public has information and lawmakers and oversight bodies.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I believe as a commission, we have discussed deaths while in custody. And please correct me if I'm wrong, everyone else, but I believe that our position has been that they should be reported to the public, including the name, the cause of death, and it should not take months to do that. It should be very quickly. And in the past, I mean, you all know that I'm one of the people who worked for the Department of Public Safety in the past. We did report deaths and who they were and what they died of, if we knew at that time. Sometimes death report, the cause of death wouldn't happen until after there had been examinations done. I don't understand the secrecy.
Martha and I agree. At Family Court Week, it was a heavy load, but we got into transparency and accountability, even with kids, because it helps the next we learn from the system, and it gives the public trust in us. And that's critical, public trust and confidence. So I'm completely aboard.
And again, I know that Max and the department have referred to HIPAA as being the reason they can't release some of this information, but then it makes no sense that 25 other states can list them. HIPAA is a national law, is a federal law, and would affect every state. So it makes no sense that Hawaii says the feds don't allow us to put out this information, yet other states can freely do it.
Sorry, I'm trying to seek some clarification here. Carrie Ann, this is the bill that takes public safety and separates it into two different departments. Department of Law Enforcement, Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation. And in here somehow was inserted death. Is that what I'm in here correctly?
You're correct. I was, quite frankly, I was surprised because the bill is probably about 50 or 60 pages long. And I
Right.
was skimming through it, and it's towards the latter part of the bill. And then I looked through the public testimony. There was volumes of testimony, but the one that caught my eye was from the Office of Information Practices from Director Cheryl Kakazu Park. She submitted testimony for both the Senate and House companion bills. And then originally she gave that opinion, and she was not citing, she says that the way that it was drafted is that they would be mandated to disclose, but that if their intention is not to do that, she recommended amending the language. And then in the subsequent draft, the language is changed, and she says there's no concerns now. It appears that the amendment was made. So the way it is currently, my reading, again, there could be, maybe the department can confirm that in their counsel, but my reading of it is that now it would be discretionary and not mandatory. And it is a triple referral bill. It's public safety, WAM, and judiciary / judiciary. So there would be there would likely be another committee that it will come up, at least for the House side and Senate side, that if the Oversight Commission is interested in submitting testimony and weighing in on this, since you are the oversight body and your position is such that the death in custody should be made public information, I would imagine that the judiciary in particular would be interested in hearing from the commission.
Martha, I believe this is part of the executive package.
Yes, it's part of the executive package, but as Carrie Ann is reporting it, as introduced, it already had language that had to do with the deaths. It wasn't something that was added on to the bill
Okay.
in one of the hearings. Is that correct, Carrie Ann?
Yeah.
Yes, I believe so. Again, it was sort of one of those things late at night looking through things.
Yeah, yeah.
But I have sort of parceled out the bill, and I did, again, sort of isolate. But I think if anything, if you take a look at the OIP, her in particular, there's a testimony from Director Park dated March 2nd, 2022. And this is on HB 2171 HD2. She writes, it's about maybe 2-3 pages. And she clearly states, to fix this inconsistency, OIP recommends that the name of the decedent be removed from the list of information required to be reported, and subsection D be amended to allow the director to disclose the name of the decedent or other additional information, provided that the director shall not disclose information protected from disclosure by law. I mean, it's further lengthy about that, but it does say you can remove the name of the person. It's a few pages long.
So one, we did not, as a commission, submit testimony for this particular bill. Yeah. But we have had in the past year or more, many discussions on how the reporting of death was or was not being done in public safety. So I do know we have those conversations. If we submit testimony, my question would be, would this be a comment?
So what we do is we submit testimony, and we are taking no position on creating the new sheriff's department. We just want to testify about this one part of the bill, and we list the page and the line numbers, and we're addressing this. And that's what we testify on, just that one bit of it.
I know there is a means of reporting. It's just that how do you navigate that from our commission, knowing that, as Mike has brought up in the past, that other states have done it, you know?
If we had staff, we could have staff research this for us.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we don't, because I mean, if I was still staff person doing this, that's what I'd be doing, is research how are other states allowed to do that and present that to the legislature. It makes no sense
Right.
that Hawaii can't and other states can. But I would want to have specific states named and how they did it and what their concerns were. I would have contacted them, but we don't have the staff to do that.
Okay. Ronald, any thoughts?
I agree with what has been said so far.
Mike?
Yeah, just without whipping this anymore, it's a culture in the sense of the way our government runs in Hawaii, and we should have an open, accountable, transparent culture. And you know, my years at family court, it was so hard to get accountability. So I think it's a very healthy discussion. Maybe the law school details somebody write an article, but this is something I worked on real hard when I was at family court.
So, Max, in that addition, and you've been listening to the conversation, but what's your current stand for that addition into this particular bill regarding the death reporting?
It was my understanding that we took the death notification in HRS and inserted it into the new department of corrections and rehabilitation. I don't think we changed the wording of the current HRS as far as the death notification to the governor, and the governor goes to the legislature. We can take a look at it again to make sure that it's consistent with the current laws that makes. I did come before the commission last year and said that we tried to submit this, we tried to work with the legislature to address the laws that prohibit us from releasing the names of individuals. And it didn't, I guess it was heard in House Judiciary. That was the final committee that heard it last year, but it didn't go any further than that. But I was hoping that someone from the commission would initiate a change in the law again this year, and we would have worked with them to address the issues so that we can release the names if it's important. But it never happened, and we got this bill that's going through. Personally, I don't have an issue releasing the names, but I'm taking advice from our legal advisors, so that's the stance that I'm taking.
And so when the bill was introduced, Max, because it is an administrative bill, you personally, and I guess the department, was in favor of putting in a section to allow us to release the names. Is that correct?
I don't think we did that.
Okay.
Yeah, there was a bill last year for us to release the names.
Yeah.
I don't know who submitted the bill or who's the author of the bill, But we tried to work with House Judiciary to come up with language, because they asked us to come up with language that would be suffice to release the information that would meet the constitutional, correct me if I'm wrong, Lisa, but the HIPAA requirement as well as the state constitution of privacy. So we had drafted some, some wording, but it never passed after that.
Okay, thank you.
I was hoping that it would be resurrected this year, but it was not, so.
Thank you.
I'll submit that testimony as mentioned today. Hold on. Which one is moving right now, Carrie? And the 2171 or they both still?
They are both still alive. Both of them had hearings this week. I think it was Tuesday and Thursday.
Yeah, I just seen on the Tuesday. Okay.
Yes. The other thing that sometimes, I mean, this is the commission, I know capacity, you don't have staff, but one of the things sometimes, right, in advance of the next hearing, because at least on one side, it's going to go to WAMS/judiciary. I've been submitting concerns, comments through email to the chairs prior to the hearing itself. I think that would likely catch their attention, because there have been literally hundreds of pages of testimony in support, a lot coming from law enforcement supporting the bill. But again, because it was so buried deep, I think that most people did not realize that, or maybe it wasn't of their particular interest in the bill. They were looking at the big picture provisions.
Okay. Thank you for that. Thank you for bringing that up, Karen. I appreciate that. Other than that, and I guess that was our segue into item number 5 on the agenda.
Hey, Max, there's a chat discussion that OIP opines it should be public. I think Kevin put that in there.
Beg your pardon, Judge?
Max, Kevin Dayton put in a comment that says respectfully, OIP opines in the testimony being discussed by Carrie Ann that the names of the inmates who die in custody are public under existing Hawaii law.
Office of Information.
Yeah, Office of Information Practice. So he's clarifying the testimony from OIP stated that already you're allowed to release the names.
Yes, so if I just add, that's why this bill is concerning, because at least in this opinion, she's saying it is, but then this bill would then change that to make it discretionary.
Yeah.
Again, we'll take a look at the current HRS and what's in the bill because I believe what was in HRS was just carried over into the bill under the new section of the law.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Thank you again, Max. And thanks, Carrie Ann, for helping us with this.
I do want to publicly say I appreciate a lot of you who have been sending me reminders on these hearings. It's been very helpful for me to be able to schedule the time to be there and provide testimony and be a presence for the commission. So I appreciate the notices and the updates. You folks have been emailing me a lot. And currently right now, yesterday morning was a big day. This afternoon is another big day in the Senate on the House bills that crossed over regarding public safety and a whole bunch of bills that I'll probably be participating in. Have any of the commissioners have any specific questions on what's going on and how things are moving? The Women's Prison Project has been very active, and a lot of their bills are still moving strong through the process. we've had both downs and ups, is the way I look at it right now. So we continue to move forward, and some surprises, like Carrie Ann said, from House Finance. Some of the decisions they made on the executive budget. And I know WHAM is gearing up to hear the executive budget as well. But I have no further thing to say about what's happening at the legislature. Anything
Mark,
else? Yes.
I was listening to Hawaii Public Radio this morning, and they had quotes from Luke's speech when she was at the end passing the budget bill out, and she said that it has money for many different things, and one of them is criminal justice reform, but she didn't go into it. So I don't know whether it means that taking the 15 million away from further development of a new jail is the reform she's talking about to implement bail reform. So I'm very much looking forward to the committee report when that comes out, so we have more information.
I thought I heard 5 million for reentry for the women. Yeah, was that correct, Carrie Ann?
Yes, I think they said they are allocating for 5 million. She specifically mentioned women, but she said in general, putting it into programs for reentry rehabilitation, 5 million appropriation.
That's a big shot in the arm.
Yep.
If it gets, through, and how it's administratively put out there once it gets into public safety will be something to see later. But it was good news,
Mark,
Yes, Mike.
I think for me, it's important to thank everybody from the governor to the representatives to the senators, the council, everybody's up for re-election. And I saw that Chair Ono is not going to run again. He's been 10 years in and he's going to move in a different direction. So we're going to get a whole new bunch of chairs and this and that. That's healthy. It's unsettling, but we also need to make a really good record this year, because we're going to have this time next year, we're going to have a whole new crew.
This time next year, we'll have a brand new governor.
That's part of what I tried to say.
Yeah, and which means that all the directors will be new. Everything is new. So yeah, you're right, Mike. That's all I'm saying. We're setting the foundation for the new leadership that's going to come after November.
The reset button will be pressed, and it should be interesting.
Okay. If we move on to item 6 at this time, we need to get moving on this, Martha.
Let me pull up the agenda again. Is this the annual report?
Yes.
Well, everybody, it's going to be a group effort to do this, and in the outline, I listed who I think should be responsible for each section. And I asked that people work on their sections and draft them and forward them to me, and I can incorporate it into the whole report. I would like to get the report completed by our next meeting in April. It'd be terrible if we turn in our annual report after the legislature ends.
We should get that. Any questions on the outline?
Well, we did that last week.
Yeah.
Okay.
Martha, this
Yeah.
is Ron. So this
Okay.
does not preclude others who is not primarily responsible for a topic to give input in other topics.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yes, please.
Okay.
And you saw where I'm doing a part of it too. And I'll just bring it all together, but you folks will get a draft to comment on before we finalize the report. So it will still be amended after the draft is done.
And that draft will be the final draft will eventually be shared. Yep.
The report will be shared.
Yeah.
So may I suggest that, Martha, I know ultimate deadline when you want to complete it, but knowing, people, can we maybe have a deadline where you would want the drafts?
Okay, let me open up my calendar. Not that my calendar is busy, just to let me know what dates are.
Let's work with this. April 21st at 9 o'clock is our next meeting.
Okay, where the hell is my calendar? There it is.
We have to, the agenda needs to be posted by the 14th of April.
Okay, if everyone can get their drafts to me, does 2 weeks, March 31st, does that sound reasonable?
Yes.
Mike, does that sound reasonable to you?
Yeah, I've drafted something. It's not going to be very legalistic. I think common sense.
Yeah, and so you drafted on the parts that I asked you to, because
Yep.
yeah, remember this report is supposed to cover what we did last year. And so we had that discussion about, the pause versus a moratorium last year. And that's why it's down there, even though that discussion has ended. Okay, so by the 31st, if you can forward me your drafts, and then I will try and turn it around in maybe by April 11th, send out the draft by April 11th. And I may be in touch with you folks. I'll send this out on a calendar to all of you, but I'll be in touch with you. Once I get your drafts, I will probably be talking to everybody individually to clarify things. And then try and get a draft out by the 11th or maybe the 13th. I'm going to make it the 13th instead, which is a Wednesday. And then finalize by the 15th in 2 days. No, I'm sorry. Get the draft out by the 11th, get your comments back and finalize by the 15th. And then I'll try and do the final report. So I'll send out a calendar to Mark that he can forward to you folks.
Lisa, are you there?
Yes, what was the question?
I'm trying to figure out because so you get the final. Do we need to post anything that we're having a discussion on this, Martha? What's
I'm
the
doing
final-
it individually with each one of you.
No, I mean with the public.
No, we're working on a report. I think
Yeah.
the public can accept we're working on our report. And so in drafting that report, I asked that pieces be submitted to me, and then I will be talking to people individually. So that would be only 2 commissioners discussing something at one time. So that's allowed, right, Lisa?
No, I understand that. I'm talking about when we vote on the final draft. Say this is the final draft. Do we need to post it on the website so the community can look at it?
Oh, yeah, for the 21st,
Yes.
for the 21st meeting, yeah, we will post it.
Okay.
But it may get there just a couple of days before, Lisa, because we're on a tight schedule. So I'll
Okay.
get it done as close to the 21st as I can, but hopefully that.
Oh, that's
I mean,
good. We
we'll do it
appreciate it,
before the
Martha.
21st.
I just wanted to make sure the process was correct.
Okay, and I'll
Okay.
send out that agenda, that timeline
Okay.
to you folks.
Thank you, Martha, for that. Appreciate it. It's about 10:06 right now, and I think we don't have nothing else to discuss. I'll take one last round of public testimony, if there is any, on today's meeting. Was that a slight wave, Karen?
Yeah, sorry. I was trying to hit the button at the same time. Sorry. Just that I've been hearing or receiving some feedback from families. I don't know all of the details, but I think part of it, there's some concern about what's been happening at HCCC and Hawaii Island, the jail. Apparently there was an alleged assault. I don't know if it was individuals who are incarcerated or involving staff, but I know that has been severe overcrowding there. And COVID restrictions, I'm sure does not help, but there was some families have reported that some people were then shipped out from HCCC to Halava. And I do not know if they're pretrial status. That's what they seem to be describing, although it wasn't quite clear. So that may be coming to your attention if there was an assault and if people are being shipped from HCCC to Halava, the first one. And then the second, of course, Kevin Dayton just recently reported about the use of lice, I believe it's this new synthetic drug, and in Halava, and one person died, and there's been another individual's been sick. The fact that visitation has ended means that it's coming in some way other than through visitors. And that should be a concern for all of us at this time. And I think there is the balance, right, weighing COVID protocol, but I would encourage the department to utilize technology, right? For not just the visitation, but whether it's classes, coursework, just positive things, because the more that people are confined and not having interactions or limitations, that could increase, right? The use of drug use, assaults. People are feeling it on the outside in the community, and we have freedom, let alone people who are confined. So I just want to bring that to your attention. There are some family members who are kind of sharing little pieces. I don't know all the details. Thank you.
Carrie Ann, I just want to say about the death to that drug that came in, that there was a report where Tommy Johnson was on, I forget which news, but on the news. It's coming in through paper. So it's not that it's staff, it's not that it's coming in on letters through paper, and it's happening throughout the United States. And so the inmates open up the letter and then they ingest the paper. And some states have already reverted to scanning everything, so nobody gets original paper. Very expensive. And what Tommy said in that report that I saw, that Hawaii would have to send, there's nobody here that could do that, so they'd have to send all the correspondence to the mainland to do that. So I think the department is probably trying to work on how to take care of this.
That's even, yeah, very concerning, right?
Yeah.
In terms of outcome, how they're going to address that.
Okay. Any more comments? We'll follow up with that, Carrie Ann. Thank you. Okay, if nothing else, I'll probably see a lot of you at 1 o'clock.
Yeah.
I gotta start reading now. But thank you for all the information. Thank you, commissioners, for your time. April 21st is our next meeting, and 9 o'clock. So with no further ado, everyone have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you,
Aloha.
one and all.